Ed was. I talked to Ed briefly. He's so overwhelmed right now with cons the next couple weekends and all sorts of other filming and all. So he was amused, semi-amused by Forgotten Realms of Greyhawk. So. Get back to the regular ads here. You know, last couple of weeks I've had just sponsors of the con up. Back to my regular, you know, which is almost one and the same, almost.
How was overall attendance in games this year? Did it look pretty good?
There's more sellouts this year than any year previous.
Excellent.
Oh yeah. There was a higher quality level of games. Like the games that were in were all good. They were all cool, you know, which was awesome. So yeah, it just rolled. You know, there was a hiccup here and there with people jumping in and out that they shouldn't be. You know, last second.
Yeah.
But all those games went off. With the exception of one. Hey, Greg. Hey, big fan of him. Tarish Ming was amazing. All the way to the semifinals as the 16th seed. Yeah. How's that possible? Kick some ass, man. Until he ran up against the Black Knight and then a single pass. And it was good.
I'll be right back.
Yep. I don't have any idea. We're waiting on Anna. We're waiting on Mike. It's time, so. What's the later editions?
It's in 3rd edition, 4th edition. I think they introduced it in 2nd edition. The
Crossing
Bloodborne.
the void.
Yeah,
That's
a whole.
I
don't know.
But that's exactly what it is.
Right. Yeah, I like.
But we can skip it. We can
yeah,
skip it.
I'd rather have. I want to have it so that everyone's open to do their interpretation of whatever they want to do, right?
Okay.
For just like we have every year with, so you know, a fun game or a silly game or a really serious game, you know. So just like I did puppets, which for Legends. So I guess are puppets Legends?
They are worse, for they know nothing but self. The Codex Infernum and the Codex Exaltum, 2 source books that bring in-depth knowledge about beings of all dispositions, from the farthest reaches of the heavens to the darkest depths of wretchedness.
Darkest depths.
Both of these titles come with new, full-color art, new creatures, new powers like possession, and a multitude of information.
There's one thing I know I forgot to do.
Backgrounds, names,
give me a second.
stats, and
I just forgot to change the giveaway
These
command.
incredible tomes are filled with demons and
we don't even know if it's gonna.
devils and
If they fixed it.
unleashing the powers
Is that
of good and
Twitch
evil.
that have screwed that up? Or,
No, it's
on
Streamlabs.
your table.
Okay.
The Codices Infernum and Exaltum, bringing
Yeah, that was I had to cancel the raffle from Sunday because I had to manually do them all. That's what that was.
Trollord Games, join the fray.
Give me a second here and I'll reset it up.
Raffle has been canceled.
Yeah, that was because the only way to get rid of it.
Yep.
Yay! Gang's all here.
Yep.
Hey, Mike. Howdy, Mike.
Oh, you can hear us. Good.
.49, so we're bright and early. How you doing, Mike?
Truthfully, I'm drained.
From what?
From work and life.
Oh man.
Well,
sorry.
we have Sam and Lester to carry the load tonight. How's that sound?
Oh, gee. No stress at all. No pressure at all.
Not at all.
It was like I got work at 14 and I'm thinking, what's the topic? So that's how my week's been so far.
Some comment. Yeah, well, hey, I can trump you all, but I won't do it live on how my week has gone.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it, but yeah, it's been a trying week, but I'll put Mike, Anna, don't react. I'm gonna put something in our Discord.
Silence is deadly.
I'm typing.
Yeah, no.
There you go.
Yep. We all
Fun,
have
huh?
our week. Yep. We all have our weeks. Yep.
Huh. Coming live. We're gonna come live early. Why not? Because we're gonna get in some cool Greyhawk chat too, Garcon chat too, a little bit, because I want to share some things. I know Troy linked something we're going to show. Woo! Good. I was like, did I update this? I did. Forgotten Realms of Greyhawk, you say? What the hell does that mean?
But there are Forgotten Realms in
That's
Greyhawk
exactly right, Anna.
too. Yep.
Hey, Samuel. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been just happy to see Samuel today and
Good.
recently. So great to see him around.
See, yeah, exactly, Samuel. That's the whole point of the topic name. You nailed it right here. You absolutely nailed that. So, boom. All right, here we come. Coming on, coming on, coming on. What's up, Curtis? In driving mode?
Curtis has been sick. I'm hoping he's feeling better.
Really?
Yeah, I'm blaming it. A few people have been sick. I'm blaming this on con crud.
Virtual Greyhawk con crud?
Virtual
Yeah.
con crud. That's the first
That's
wave
a
of
first.
virtual con crud I've heard about, but
That's
it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Johan, we appreciate that.
Yeah, welcome, Johan.
Good evening. I'm J.K. Lord Gazamba. Look at this crowd we got tonight for this cool topic. Before I introduce everyone, some quick announcements. No game tomorrow night because I already have two of my guys out, and I probably am going to the Phillies game tomorrow night. I got tickets, so and they're up 8-2 right now, game 3. So if it's a closeout game, I got an option to go for tickets. I'm going to, and then the next stream after this will probably be Sunday night's Gabbin. There's a 10% chance I have something on Saturday, but look for Gabbin on Sunday. All right. Hey, good to see everyone. So let's go. We got Anna and Mike, normal co-hosts, but
Yep.
I think you all know the two guests we have on. Let's just introduce them and they can tell them a little bit about themselves. Sam, take it away first, man. How are you?
Hi, I'm okay. I'm Sam Weiss, the ever popular master heretic of Cannon Fire, writing tons of stuff for Visions. I've written stuff in the past. I was an LG admin for the Legion, and now I just hang out and spread my mad heresies.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Awesome. Yep.
That is a great thing. Welcome back to the show. Appreciate that. And also Les Reno, Oblivion Seeker. What's going on, man?
Hey, it's Les. I'm Oblivion Seeker, also known in some circles as Invisible Conjurer. You probably know me from my time either here or on Wiley and Matthew's Greatcast. I've been doing a few appearances there. And from some stuff I've contributed to the Eternal, and I've got some stuff coming up in Visions, hopefully. And in general, you probably have seen me around and dreaded the sound of my voice returning, but here I am to go over tonight's subject. And honored to be here with you guys, and honored to be here with you, Sam.
So tonight's classic D&D reprint, I had so much to give away. Oh, and a couple other things real quick. And thank you, Les, for coming on. All of the Troller Games gifts have not gone out yet because of their store migration. I have it down on the list. There's like 28 of them. Everything else should have gone out, okay? So if you want a Frog God, it's all out, besides the Troller stuff. So please sit tight and be patient as they migrate their store. I have the list down. I think Four Name Fandom has 2 wins. Everyone else has 1 and all that stuff. I promise you will get them. But I had some stuff left over. So winner tonight, hardback choice. Return the expeditions to Castle Ravenloft or the expeditions to the Demonwood Pits.
Ooh,
Your
Nice.
choice for the winner. Hardback. All right.
big ones.
Big
Nice.
ones. All righty. That's what she said. Oh, sorry. I know I can't help myself. Yes. Hey Heather. Good to see you. And you got your stuff right. You got your link and all. The topic tonight is a cool one, and we're going to link that in, and that's Forgotten Realms of Greyhawk, what the hell that means and all. But I want to go over a couple things, and Les has some good stories, and he'll link that into Forgotten Realms of Greyhawk into what he's talking about that happened at Greyhawk Con. Correct, Les?
Yeah, actually, there's something that I would recommend the DMs look at that ties into my con game. So, one of my con games.
Fantastic. I want to go over this great post by Alan Grohe about the con. Okay, we'll go through this real quick. He says a lot of nice things about a lot of people. I think a lot of people will be appreciative of that. So, cool. That's good that you got that. So, talking about it's been a quiet summer. And I didn't realize how much he played and how much he was everywhere. He was kind of like the Antiquitous / the Phantom NJ of the con, right? He was everywhere. I've not squeezed so much gaming into a 3-day weekend since the early days of Gary Con in North Texas, which is unbelievably cool.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And when it closed out with the Ask the Experts roundtable, my brain is very full. So here we go. Real quick here. He ran Hall of the Iron Golems from his version of Castle Greyhawk first. Anyone out there playing this?
I played in Sunday.
Okay, cool. You played in the Sunday one. Awesome. If you did, just let me know. And he's like, let's see if
and
he names
Antiquitous was with me on Sunday too.
And Alex was there on Sunday as well. Oh my God, Alex! Holy jeez. So eight characters went in, and he talks about it a little bit. Then that night he played in Carlos's game. That was late night. The Amphoria Ekphresis, sequel to the 9. He played a halfling, a female druid thief, I love druid thieves. Love them. So that was a great discussion on this. Who else played in that? I know we had a lot of big names playing in that game too. And he talks about it here as Carlos ran a great game, which is cool. And here's a picture of it going on. All right. So we got DM Dave, Von Moku's in that. That's Dale. That's Asher the Bear's in that too. All right, cool. So we had some big names in that too. Names are messed up. Jeff, were you in that too? You were in that too. All right, cool. So Scottish Jeff was in it too. Very cool. Next day, he talks about Von Moku's game, Mystery in Mid-Meadow, event during which high-level party of agents of the Nyrondal King Lenward discovered the recent attack in the area were participated by hitherto thought mythical race of evil known as the Drow. I guess the Drow haven't appeared in Nyrond yet, so that was cool. Neat stuff. And he used Owlbear Rodeo, so another thing for a great beginning to Saturday. His Saturday was crazy. He ran in Curtis's Fell Tidings at Willow Bright Abbey, which is a remake of Horror in the Hill, which is awesome that you did that, Curtis. Very cool. That's it. That's awesome to hear. Yes, you're still waiting on Chuck, Heather. Yes, still waiting on Chuck. It's actually on TLG themselves. They have their store migration hasn't finished, so they can't issue any codes. What a time to do that, huh? So yeah. So please, I got everyone's name down. Sit tight on that. He played in that, and that's cool. Curtis, just tell us how that went in chat. After that, he grabbed a quick dinner, and then he looks like he did his own campaign stuff after that. Holy jeez. So he ran his normal group that night too. Sunday he slept in, and then he did a second session of Halls of the Iron Golems, and Les said you were in that one. Very cool. He's got I love that picture. I love that picture. You had a trap that, Les? What happened with that trap?
That inspired actually 2 traps that we wound up in. The party wound up getting split. Part of us fell into a chamber, much like you see there,
Right.
And the other other part of the group fell into a room that was quickly filling with yellow poison gas, and there were skeletons in it. And so we had to think our way out of it, and we did. We managed to survive those traps.
Excellent.
Because we're badasses.
You're badasses. That's what I like to hear. I like to hear you had fun with it. And that's the most important thing. You guys all, and whoever
It was a blast.
You guys had fun. And then lastly, we had a great show, with the exception of Roger Moore's cat attack.
There was a lot of cute cats.
Yeah, a lot of cute cats until one of them went crazy.
Yeah.
So, and that was a fun show. And then it gave away 15 or 16 things to wrap up.
It took half an hour to get all the...
especially when I had to roll dice to do it.
Yeah.
So, but only one tonight. Yeah, we heard that thing. I was like, "What the hell was that?" So that's what happened. Alan always writes up very, very nice synopses of what he does, and he did one for CarryCon last year. And just wanted to note, I know that Troy, can you relink what you linked in Discord into the channel here, so if everyone wants to go to this, they can, please. That'd be great. So that's what happened for some things. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about Greyhawk as Les talks about his game. All right, what are your thoughts? We'll go to our guests first, then we'll do Mike and Anna on what this Forgotten Realms of Greyhawk means. Sam, what do you think it means?
I'm really not sure. I mean, it could be unused countries of Greyhawk. Lesser used locations. It could be all that empty space in the countries if you consider population density. I do recall we were discussing that, so I did try to prepare for both.
Yeah, because it can mean a lot of different things, and there are best topics of a discussion where it's not, you know what I mean, down into something tight. So yeah, definitely excellent. It could mean a lot of different possibilities. Les, what are your thoughts?
There are two things that come to mind. First off, Sam, I believe, is absolutely correct. We're looking at the idea of places that don't really get used or explored as often as they could be as points for either adventures or ongoing campaigns. There's also, I think, the option of spaces in Greyhawk or adjacent to Greyhawk that players have the opportunity to use and DMs have the opportunity to use that aren't necessarily located in the central Flanaess. And I'll elaborate on that when we come to one of my choices.
Excellent, Les. Anna.
Well, I think all of these things are really, really cool. Since I'm a geography nut, I went into like areas of Greyhawk or the Flanaess of the setting that hasn't been used much, that has a lot of potential, that it's often been used either because they don't have a name really, and they are part of areas that have names and are kind of always been used a lot, but they are forgotten areas and some of the borderlands and stuff. So I put it together a list of these kind of, but I'm thinking from a geography perspective. But I love all the other ways Sam and Les came forth with here. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And Mike.
Yeah, well said, guys. No, I think I may have wrote several blog posts about this topic.
Oh, awesome.
So I'll try to play along and throw out some links here or there.
That's great.
See if anything lines up with what I've written before.
Okay. The ever-expanding borders of all, yes, all is...
And I'm not including all.
Neglected may be a way to look at this, David. Of course, there's a lot of different ways you can look at this. So why don't we go to our two guests? Because I know we want them to do most of the chatting tonight. Because I'm just like, I'm mentally burnt. I'll get into that later. I know Mike is a little too. So let's kick it off with Sam. Sam, what do you got? What do you got for us? Give us an example of what you think we're talking about here tonight.
Okay, well, for the second, for those empty map areas,
Get out the
a
map
lot
real
of that's
quick.
going to depend on the exact model you're using for the Flanays, in terms, that points of light concept from fourth edition, or what you want to do. Like I say, with the empty areas, because the population density of the Flanays is overall very low. And there are several ways you can look at this. Are we just not counting a whole bunch of people within the borders of the kingdom because for whatever reason they're less than loyal and unlikely to show up at a muster? Are we not counting a whole bunch of people living in the hills and forests and nearby mountains that are technically subject to the kingdom, but aren't actually in the open areas that are covered with the borders on the maps? One of the things I've said, I have my own little bit on it, is a lot of us have this sort of late medieval Renaissance view of the polities of Greyhawk, where no, that's the borders of the realm, and everybody within that area is subject to the king, absolutely. But I'm thinking, no, we should really be looking at an earlier era. Things like Merovingian and Carolingian France, Anglo-Saxon England. You could go a little bit later with the Holy Roman Empire, but mostly the earlier ones where, well, okay, technically they were part of France or England or wherever, but they operated very independently most of the time, fighting each other, sometimes fighting the king. And okay, so yeah, it's within the borders. It's part of Keelan. That's where the Keelan says, "Yeah, these are my borders," or Furiundi says, "These are my borders." But really, the people like, yeah, you know what? I'm not showing up at court this year. I'm not bringing any gifts for the king. I'm not bringing any tribute or taxes.
Screw the king.
Yeah, and they're there.
Right. Okay.
And this could be depending on the current charisma and power of the ruler, and whether or not they've had any fights, like Furiundi being attacked by Ayus, or not being attacked by Ayus. It's like, yeah, there's no threat. We don't need to worry about what Belvoir wants. Now all of a sudden Ayus is rampaging over the border. It's like, oh, Belvoir, save me, save me. So this could easily double, triple the population of a realm. The only thing I might note there is be careful. Don't drop, 50, 100, 1 million person cities in the middle of these empty areas. You keep it to, maybe a small town, 1,000 or two, a castle, and a village.
It's a great point. Give me one area of an example. It could be a county in Furiundi for all I care. That's where would you think? Just
yeah, okay. Let's pick Furiundi.
Yep, it's wide open.
Let's pick somewhere that triangle by the Shield Lands and Horn Society.
Right here.
Yeah, where the rivers meet.
Right here.
Yeah. Now, okay, if the Horn Society's not raiding this year, why care? Why do I need Belvoir?
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's some valuable river traffic. I'm going to keep all my tariffs on that river traffic for myself and tell Belvoir to, whatever. But now, of course, oh, look, the Shield Lands just got conquered by the Horn Society. Yeah, now I think maybe, hey, Belvoir, here's a couple of years back taxes, and can you station like 100 or so Knights of the Heart here, please? Please, 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 please.
Okay.
And depending on what's going on, when adventurers roll through the area, it can be completely different.
And when you think about this is thousands of square miles. Now, I know Anna's map is a little more filled because she's got something custom going on here. That's thousands of square miles. There's nothing. Nothing on that map right there.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing I would throw in. From what I understand about general human demographics, I'd say every hex of the Darlene map
Yeah.
has at least a small town, maybe a large town. And around it are going to be 6 or so villages. That's like normal human distribution through history, pretty much everywhere. It's about a day's ride from a village to a town, and a town will sit in the center of a cluster of villages and have a weekly market.
Yeah.
That is in civilized areas, but to go back to medieval time, I mean, we live in an era where we have billions of people on the planet. If you go back few hundred, like 500 years, we were not even a billion. We were half a billion.
This held true even in medieval times.
Yeah, so I mean, a large part of even Europe, there were hardly a person living.
Especially after 1342.
Well, it depends. Before the Black Death, the population density in France was 100 per square mile.
Yeah.
Which is pretty significant, and that's one of the reasons that a third of the people died because the population density was so high.
Yeah, but there you have the difference between modern times. People live almost everywhere. Back then, the population density was high in France, large part of Germany, and Italy, and part of England and stuff. But if you go to Scotland, if you go to the Scandinavian countries, even to Poland and other countries, there were not that many people living in medieval times compared to today. The population density fell. It was where you could produce a lot of food easily, meaning good land that could be easily cultivated. That's where people lived.
Well, that's where you're going to have differences in land use. So Scotland is not going to have the same kind of intensive cultivation.
Land, It's all sheep.
But then you don't have the population either. So
it's going to have grazing land. It's going to have sheep everywhere.
Yeah. But you don't, they didn't support the population of a lot of areas of the world. And we look at Europe and stuff that had, and there were parts of China and certain parts of the Middle East, but there were also large areas of the world that were basically unsettled.
Right.
Up until modern times.
But I think Sam's point is that if we go into this all open area of, you're not going to put a town in every hex, but you're going to put a town in a hex you want to have a campaign in.
Yeah, but Sam, I agree with you that I think that the Greyhawk should have hundreds of more towns, probably 1,000 or so, that are not named. And I think it's a bit on purpose. First of all, they couldn't write a book that was 2,000 pages thick to put all there in there. But they also wanted to leave a lot of the white spots for us to fill in.
Well, I would also note on that, that's where, our modern idea of when you say a town, how many people is that? I'm going by the medieval definition. I'm talking 1,000 or 2,000 people. I'm not talking some big 10,000. I'm not talking modern 500,000 person small city. I'm not even talking 100,000.
A town in Pathfinder 3.5 and most editions of D&D have been 200 people plus. That's a town.
So it's small. It's a small little group. It's enough that with a couple of villages around it of 100 or so people, 200 or so people, it support a weekly market. It's worthwhile for people to come in, bring food, sell it.
Yeah. Meaning,
good point.
I'll have to look at it. Yeah.
It's a good point. And once again, you're dealing with something that I love about Greyhawk, and that is, where do I want to start to campaign? Where do I want to place something that's going to go on with me for the next 10 years? I want to put it somewhere where I can create it, not mess up fanon/canon, but have an effect on the overall game, right? That's just the way I see things. So there's
an
plenty
empty
of
hex in the middle of Friandi is probably not what you would pick.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I think Friandi is one of the places that has a huge potential for much higher population than what's there.
Right.
Nairom the same way. Yeah.
I would note, looking at the DMG1, towns given a population of 1,500 to 6,500, a village 600 to 900. So this is 7,500 people. If we, multiply it by 3, 22,500 people in an area of about 800 square miles. That's
Small, one person.
Yeah, that's still not that huge a population density.
It's one village, one or two
Right.
villages.
No, that's 6 villages and a town.
Okay.
Yeah, like I say, going by those numbers, that's 6 villages in a town in around whatever it is. I always forget 800 square miles for a 30-mile across hex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
it's
not
huge.
a lot of people.
It's huge. The vastness of Greyhawk makes it so that you could actually adventure and not meet anyone from published source in your entire campaign, you know, because it's so vast. It's a good point.
That's going to take up 40 square miles out of 800 square miles of hex. That's 1/20th of the hex is occupied.
Yep.
Has people there. That's plenty of room for whatever howling wilderness you want to throw in between it.
Yeah. Before Les goes, this area here had nothing in it until in my game until I put a city there, right?
Yep.
So it was for. I mean, whoever. You had this little goofy area here in Patriots of Ulick, right? And I said, "There's nothing here." That's why I picked it, you know. And so, and it made sense in our campaign because we're going back and forth from Celine to Principality of Ulick. So,
yep.
There you go. Les, I know you have a connection, a way to a development way. Let's hear it, and then I'll link to wherever we need to go.
It's a bit of development, and it's a bit of unexplored or underappreciated terrain.
Cool.
First, a little backstory.
Yep.
This was completely irrelevant to the one shot that I ran in the convention, in that the players didn't need to know any of this. But throughout my ongoing campaign, which is going on, I think, year 4 or 5 or something now.
Awesome.
There have been throughout different towns and cities and even villages where there either has been disaster or where disaster is soon to come. The players have encountered these signs. It's usually an eye within a triangle, and words to the effect of, "We buy, sell, and trade. All reasonable offers accepted. And everything must go." Now, they've never come across the spaces where this writing was found. Usually it's a burned out building or something that's collapsed. It's adjacent to a space that's now empty or is significantly damaged. And I've kept hinting and hinting and hinting. I decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on it in my one-shot game, in my one of the one-shots at Greyhawk Con.
Cool.
And I wanted to do 2 things. First, I wanted to explore the vast swamp, which I love. You have, of course, Sararak. You've got the Tomb of Horrors. You've got all the stuff with if you use Return to the Tomb of Horrors. You've got Moyle and connections to the negative energy plane. You've just got a vast amount of material that you can mine there that way. And then, of course, going all the way back, I believe, to Dragon 71, you've got Wastry and his bullywug cultists. And I was like, this is too good an opportunity. But what I did was I set it up as a kind of switcheroo. There's an old top secret module where the adventure starts with the agents assigned one thing, and then everything takes a turn, and the adventure goes in a completely different direction. And that's what I kind of did to the players on Saturday. They were part of an expedition into the vast swamp because recently in Sundi there had been a number of incidents where villages had disappeared. They had clearly been raided. And all the evidence pointed towards the vast swamp, and the few eyewitness accounts indicated that there were toad-like beings or frog-like beings associated with these raids. So the players had been part of an expedition of about 25 souls led by a mercenary they were all familiar with, who had gone into the vast swamp to try and figure out what was going on. And then they were ambushed by Wastry and his followers, and most of the company wound up dead, except for these players.
Oh, that's how it started.
Yes, that was the beginning. That was before it even began.
That's awesome.
As it began, they had all fled. They were being pursued by bullywugs and by Wastry himself. and
dear.
arrived at a stone circle in the vast swamp. And on a mound, clearly a kind of cairn or something, there was a stone structure, with a window and what appeared to be the etching of a door. It resembled an old Flan burial site, except the stones were too smooth, and the markings were not familiar. So they run up to this structure, and they took shelter inside, and that's when things got trippy. Space began folding on itself, and they wound up in one of my other favorite things about Greyhawk would be the fading lands and the idea of pocket universes or dimensions.
That's cool.
If these other things that my players have previously encountered, you can think of those as pop-ups or as franchises, and this was the headquarters of these merchants. These merchants travel along ley lines. The structure itself, one of the PCs realized from something he had overheard in a bar, this must be that place. There's a stone building in the vast swamp that disappears and reappears in different locations. And what that is the merchants moving along the ley lines. And as they move along the ley lines, openings in time and space go to different points in Greyhawk's history and different locations.
Oh, that's cool.
And so they've got to figure out how they're going to get out of this and back to the vast swamp, or at least somehow notify they've got information about Wastri. They don't want to spend eternity in this place. They've got to figure out how to get out of there.
So imagine having to get out of somewhere back to the vast swamp. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, when Wastri is not your biggest problem. And among other things, they encountered
that's cool.
A waiting room. It was a room that was sealed, and once the room was sealed, time passed at a different rate. So they opened the door, and thankfully they left the door, and some of them loitered outside. And one of them, who knew ancient Sul, realized that these 6 figures who were waiting inside were a Sul noble and his entourage. And they discovered that this Sul noble had traded something to the proprietors of this establishment in exchange for something else, and had sought to then return what they had borrowed to get their original item back. And they were told to wait here while management goes through inventory. And they had died approximately 1,000+ years ago while waiting, and weren't aware that they were dead. And when informed of the fact that the Imperium was gone, etc., that the room, there's a shift, and you realize that these are all corpses. After they realize that horrible sense of loss passes over them. How long have we been here? They managed to find a room that contained a kind of courtesy phone. It was a helmet of bronze and silver wiring with a ruby jewel that fit over the forehead, where they could, and the room's walls were basically black glass. And by donning it, the wearer could communicate with someone outside. So he chose to speak to Lord Delvin, who's a character I cooked up back when I ran Tomb of Horrors back in high school. They were going to warn him about the bullywugs and Wastri and everything. And the point of view on all the glasses suddenly was the point of view as if he had materialized in the room with their master. Unfortunately, their master was in bed with his mistress, and not his wife. And begins pointing at the mirror and screaming, "Unclean spirit!" while the mistress is freaking out. He calls for his guards. The guards come in and look horrified and are poking at the point of view, and he calls for a priest. Meanwhile, the wires start smoking and have to be removed, and he takes damage after failing a saving throw. And it turns out this was basically a helm of telepathy that had not been a sort of helm of telepathy that had not been maintained properly by the proprietors. And it's like, yeah, sure, you want to call somebody outside while you're just go in there, kind of thing. And then one of the final things was they encountered a recreation of the vast swamp within the structure.
Huh.
And this recreation of the vast swamp had some Easter egg heads arrayed on either side, which might strike people who are familiar with Castle Greyhawk as a bit familiar.
Oh, gosh.
And at the end of it, there were 2 statues of a toad-like deity with its hands on its belly. Now, this, of course, is Sathagwa. And what happened eventually unfolded was that these merchants had kidnapped some bullywugs, just as the bullywugs had kidnapped humans. And just as the Wastri cult transforms these humans, the merchants had transformed these bullywugs to create mercenaries that they could trade at a different location in time. But the problem was that this new Wastri and these new bullywugs, rather, and their Sothagwa cargo cult required a myth of succession. The first generation had passed. Now it was time to hand on the succession. And the players were invited to not invited. They actually wound up participating in a foundation myth, where basically one of them they slaughter some bullywugs, a champion comes forward, the challenger has to take the champion on in a one-on-one combat. The champion is then replaced by the next generation of bullywug leadership. And having done that, they were duly rewarded by the merchants, who deposited them outside Odd Alley in the city of Greyhawk months later during the winter.
So the whole moral to that great synopsis of an adventure that a lot of us wish that we had participated in is you can take something that exists, or you can take something that everyone knows about and twist it slightly, whether it's via time or another story, or it sounds like almost like self-fulfilling prophecy loop. Also,
what a lot of this was it was an homage to Appendix N and a lot of its authors.
Yes.
There was a trick involving a model of the room within a model of the room within a model of the room, and you had to figure out how to rearrange the walls, like click off the wall, put the wall with the door in another side so that you had an opening out of the room other than the way you came. And inside, if you reached down, you could actually squish yourself. And if you put something on top of the model and crushed it, that could lead to a TPK. And there was some meddling with that, and one of the characters almost accomplished that. But these were homages to Frederick Brown, the Appendix N author's story, The Giesenstacks, to his story Arena, which of course inspired the Star Trek episode with the Gorn.
Yes.
And Kirk fighting the Gorn. The big fight at the end was inspired by that. What Mad Universe by Frederick Brown, Robert Heinlein's And He Built a Crooked House, and of course Fritz Leiber's classic Bizarre of the Bizarre. So this was kind of my homage to all these stories that I love, that I know have very much influenced. And of course, Lord Robilar had acquired a ring of spell turning, if I'm remembering from a blog I read once, in Odd Alley back in the day. And of course, Odd Alley made its appearance in one of Gygax's short stories.
Yep.
And there's that idea of dimensional travel and alternate worlds and stuff. And I wanted to pay tribute to that, but I didn't want to be over the top. And I wanted to have it have a kind of dark currency and tie into the situation with Wastri and the Bullywugs and the lore of the vast swamp. So again, there's that idea that you can take the idea of a fading land, say, or a pocket dimension, or something similar, and plug it in and think about how it would interact with the setting and the location and what it would do with that setting. And also, in and of itself, I would say the vast swamp needs more love, man. It's got enough weirdness there between Wastri's cult and Bullywugs and Demi-Liches and all kinds of other craziness, and where, it's ripe for exploitation as well.
And what you did was you took something and just you twisted it a little bit, changed it up a little bit, and created a really cool story where there's encounters upon encounters of familiar.
And the cool thing was the early encounters frustrated, I think, the players, or they were designed to frustrate the players in that they were expecting combat, so that by the time they got to the Bullywug thing, they were ready to rush in and start slaughtering.
Right.
And then they noticed that the rest of the Bullywugs, other than the ones they've slaughtered, are on their knees with their hands raised, and the statue is calling out, "Who is the challenger?" And the Bullywugs all repeat, "Who is the challenger?" And they realize, oh, goodness, we've just done something that apparently was expected, and we have to follow through on whatever this is if we want to get out of here. So yeah, that was
it's awesome.
It was playing with the players' expectations. There were puzzles and logical issues they had to think their way through. For example, with the Soul and with the models. And
thinking your players like puzzles.
Some do.
Some do, some don't.
Well, these players were really sharp. I've got to say that they figured out the stuff with the model room really quickly. And the another one I don't want to mention names because I don't want to necessarily single them out, but they were all brilliant. I've got to give props to Daniel. Is it Daniel Boggs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or
Dan Boggs.
Daniel Boggs and Rich Longitellis figured out the model room really quickly, and Phantom NJ Rob figured out the stuff with the Sewell nobles really quickly by conversing with them in ancient Sewell, which his priest of Lydia happened to know. So there were opportunities, and they figured it out, and they managed to avoid total party kills multiple times, to their credit. And they got the warning about Wall Street, or they tried to, but that didn't really work. Although, I will point out just as a postscript, that they found out that in years to come, or in days to come, the mistress had died of heart failure some days later. The lord, who they reported back to, experienced renewed his vows of marriage to his wife, and became one of the most devout people in the kingdom after seeing what he believed was a worm-ridden corpse wrapped in a winding sheet and speaking to him in ancient Flan.
Oh,
Which is what that helm wound up making the character look like when he was trying to communicate. So
that's awesome.
Good time, fun times for all.
Well, I imagine those that played can, I know Curtis had said in chat how good it was, right?
Curtis was in Friday night's game. Yeah.
Oh, he was in Fridays.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Nice.
Yeah, there were two crazy. One of them, Spine Castle, was extremely brutal and action filled.
Yeah, that's one.
And this one was a little more reserved. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I didn't want to offend anyone 5e players, but puzzles of that sort and riddles that's an old school feel to it. Right?
I use them in my 5e game too.
Yeah.
No one is safe. No one is safe.
But that's a lot of what we used to do all the time was those kind of we'd see a lot of TV show, a Doctor Who or somewhere. Oh, I'm gonna throw that on them, So yeah, very cool. That's awesome.
Just the thing, like I said, don't hesitate to take the idea of a fading land or something that connects to your world and figure out how it would interact with that particular region, and what the feedback loop between the two would be, and what the nature of the relationship is. So that'd be one of my things: fading lands and the vast swamp.
I'm gonna ask a question to the group on that follow up, because you did a lot of time travel. I'm running Thursden at Founders and Legends, and the ideas came up Sunday night about talking about run it in the past. Mm-hmm. Are the old school purists going to go, I just want to play the Thursden game, I don't want to do it without changes? Or are they going to go, oh wow, that's a cool take, right? What do what would be? I
think it would depend on the old school player.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We'll know who signs up for it until. I'm curious on that. I'm curious on that. So, yeah, it's a cool take, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, if some players have already played that module, they definitely haven't played that module back in time.
Yeah.
And the other thing to think about, this is just me being nerdy, is always think of, when you think of time travel, think of space-time as well, because quite often when we think of time travel, we don't realize that you're not only moving in time. If space-time is kind of a continuum, right? You're also moving in space.
Right.
So you can do all kinds of neat things with the location that they're in not necessarily being the location they think they're in, and with distortions of perception. For example, dwarves or other characters who wander the halls of this Mystone structure wound up experiencing massive, just horrible nausea because they had the sense that they were walking upside down and at 45-degree angles at certain point, even though their senses told them they were walking a straight line. And of course, certain spots time wound up functioning differently because it's connected to different points in space and time. Because that's the kind of, I like playing with the kind of Einsteinian space-time idea and things like that. So, and that's another thing. I mean, it's a god of entropy, so you might as well go kind of cosmic.
Almost has a Baba Yaga's hut Tesseract hypercube feel to it.
Yeah. That was why they managed to avoid the Tesseract, by the way. There was a Tesseract full of undead that I had put in there.
Nice.
But they managed to turn it, not get it trapped in there.
That's an awesome discussion there, Les. I really appreciate you sharing.
Apology
that.
if it was long-winded.
You know
rambling,
what?
So.
It's less talk that Mike and I have to do.
There you go.
That was Cool. So, Anna, give us a thought on this Forgotten Realm concept of Greyhawk.
Okay, yeah, I really liked it when it was suggested by it was
Patrick, wasn't it?
yeah, I think no, they were Rich Deola. Yeah,
Rich
I think so. Yeah, I think Longitalos. He came with the idea, and I kind of liked it both as a kind of a play with words on Forgotten Realms, but also because there are Forgotten Realms in Greyhawk.
Yep.
Many realms that are forgotten. And I want to start with a lake that I think has been forgotten. And it's one of the biggest lakes, strikingly enough, because it's hardly ever mentioned.
Let me guess.
There's okay.
Lake Quag.
Nope.
Oh, I got it wrong.
Nope. Yeah, because it's so much up in their face, but it's hardly ever been mentioned or used and the weird thing is almost every part of the shoreline of that lake is barely used. It's forgotten. Nice. And I'm talking a Wystell Lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Wystell Lake has a lot of interesting, and almost all the shorelines of Wystell Lake are forgotten, so to speak. So if we start in the south, we have Crockport, that is the only sizable place that is really mentioned, and so on. So I'm going to skip that part because that's not really forgotten. It was kind of overrun, and it got its love in Living Greyhawk before then. I'm not even sure if it existed before then, but probably did, but was not much in adventures and stuff. But if we go clockwise around it, then first we have the Vesvi coast. There's nothing on the Vesvi coast that is in the sources, and I tried to make the Vesvi coast interesting by making it into an archipelago with islands and little. Just try to make it interesting because there is nothing. That we don't even know if the forest goes all the way out to the coast, so to speak. And
that's true.
It's one huge potential. Meaning we have a lot of trees near the water. It's a good resource for timber, easy to cut it down and stuff. And it ought to be good for communications and stuff. So that is an overlooked realm that has, I think, huge potential for you should fight over it. Meaning you can have everything from furry Indians in the south. You can have elves and stuff that comes from the inner of Vesvi that wants to have a port place and a port by the lake. And then north you have all sorts of humanoids, Iusians and stuff. So it's an interesting kind of melting pot as well. So to speak. So that one is interesting. And we go north, then we have the Iusian coast. Nothing is mentioned of the Iusian coast. Exactly. We have Doraka is the only place along that coast that is mentioned apart from Grunland Keep and Ursen. And those places are mentioned. Maybe they get a line or two in Ius the evil, but that's it, so to speak. So it's barely mentioned, and the land of Ius get like a page or two, which is not bad, but the coast is not mentioned. We don't know much about that coastline at all, and it will be it's kind of cool. It's the doorstep to the land of Ius. So if you want to go beach hunting or raiding in one of the worst locations in Flanese, that could be a cool way to get in and out of the lands of Ius. And we have one that I kind of added a little bit is the town of Island that is in the northern end of the western coast of Vesvi, or the western end of Ius realm. And Island, I gave it some cool heraldry, and that was released last year, I think. And said that was Island was started as an outpost of the Great Kingdom because they kind of settled out and then they abandoned it, so to speak. But the heraldry kind of stayed, and then Ius and humanoids and stuff took over after the Greyhawkins or the Great Kingdoms kind of went home, so to speak. But that's my story in my campaign. Island is one of these places that doesn't have much story, but could have a huge, interesting tapestry of stuff to go back to. And then we have the eastern coast, Horn Society coast. Nothing is mentioned of the Horn Society coast. It's really forgotten. That's a part of Horn Society that we only have one place, and that's Delaken. I've added the town of Mergen. I've added Broken Sky Hobgoblins and That is a name that comes from somewhere. I added the town of Jidek and a bunch of places in my campaign, but in published lore, nothing. It's empty. And then comes what should be the crown jewel on the Wysdale coast, the Furundi coast. And it has Gold Keep. That's it.
Which
If
one
you don't
has the
men-
book that isn't Gold Keep
Yeah.
the one that has a book but it doesn't have a book about it?
Exactly. I don't. Yeah,
Isn't there a book called
it's
Gold Keep? It's one of the old.
might be.
That's
Yeah,
Quad Keep. I'm sorry, that's Quad Keep.
yeah, Quad Keep. Yeah,
Quad
yeah.
Keep. Duh.
Mhm.
I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yep. Yeah. So Gold Keep. We don't know much about it. It has like a couple of paragraphs in the Marklands. That's it.
That's it.
Yep, that's it. So so that's my one high on my list because you have so much potential. You can raid IUs, you can raid the Vespi coast, and you can set up shop there and stuff, and you can go, you can have interesting raids across the Veng. The northern Veng is kind of an interesting because you have the good lands on one side of the river and the evil ones on the other. So you can have a safe haven to go and rest for some R&R and then just go across the river or up the lake a little bit and then raid. Perfect for mid-level adventuring where you want to go back home and rest and recover and then back in the action again.
Lots of areas you can develop from
Mhm.
scratch. There's
Yeah.
plenty, and
Yeah, you can do long distance recon on Doraka and stuff like
in
that. Several
multiple
rivers. Oh,
yeah,
so-
multiple
what?
time frames.
Mhm,
Post wars,
exactly.
pre-wars, during
Exactly.
wars.
Yep.
You
mhm.
know, so
Yep.
yep.
Plenty of several rivers to go up and down for some river raiding and stuff like that too. And so I think it's an very much underused and forgotten part of Greyhawk. That was my
Excellent.
first on the list. Yep.
Fantastic. Mike, I know you're
Uh.
as tired as I am, so if you want to just mention
Oh, I'm
something.
starting to snap out of it.
Okay.
Anyhow, yeah, coasts. I like coasts. I think coasts are definitely going to be a spot to look for.
Yeah.
Although if you were in my second edition campaign, that Wysdale coast was heavily used, but it was wartime, so they were coming from all directions, troop movements, that is. So, if your campaign is a war campaign, I'm just saying some of that empty spaces might get used. I don't know, because you got to get from point A to point B somehow.
Yeah.
Anyhow, earlier, Jay, you were talking about Altamira,
Mm-hmm.
picking that place. And that's kind of what this post I did back in 2020 is about. I was looking for
please link it.
spots on the map, like if you get to name level, let's say, hey, I want to build my wizard tower, I want to build my fighters keep, some out of the way places, like unique places to start your domain, because a lot of places are you put a domain in the middle of Foriandi, then people assume you're going to be subservient to Foriandi. So I was kind of looking for some out of the way borderland areas. So without going through and reading the whole thing, I provided pictures and then I would put a dot on the map, where it's at. And I just had different criteria, like one's in the desert, one's on a mountain, hills. I just did a few of these places. The one on the coast of Lake Quag is kind of what you guys were driving at with coastal domains. But anyhow, the idea is for that post came from the old companion set in Beckme, where you would take a hex, and that's where you would start your domain, and that hex would have so many resources. So it's like where I put that dot, it's assumed like the player rules that 30-mile
Mm-hmm.
hex, right? And then build your campaign out from that.
Because your guys always like taking over places and becoming administrators, correct?
Well, that was, back in the old days, we conquered the entire map. That was Monty Hall,
right.
Greyhawk
We've
Wars.
all done it.
Yeah. But there have been times when we also, not
Go dirty.
recently, but we would do the smaller domain management, I tried to do a little birthright. Ended up being a lot of bookkeeping more than adventuring, so that didn't work as well for me as companions that did. So I would still recommend the companion rules for domain management. If you just want something like basic.
It's all excellent, and always check Mike's old blogs, spot locations because and stories because we get a lot of our topics right off of them. All right, real quick, this area here for Coastline. Back in the day, the first pre. Can anyone tell me on here or in the audience? I'll give you all 30 seconds. The first adventure path that was written, according to a couple people, particularly the Paizo people, the Paizo people. What's the first adventure path ever written and published? D&D. No. Nope. I'm thinking I'm gonna get it's either Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms. 10 seconds.
I'd probably guess they'd say either the Slavers or the Giant Strow.
Yeah, they're kind of, but I'm talking. I'm talking
actual adventure path.
Yeah, it was. They didn't even realize it was an adventure path. According to
Mirror of Dead Men.
Yes, good job, Sam. The Mirror
by complete quirk. I read it within the past week. Complete quirk. I said, wait a minute. This is a freaking adventure.
It is. It's Adventure Path. Here's the last of the Mirror of Dead Men series. Okay?
Nice.
All right. Written by Eric Boyd. Okay?
Nice.
All right?
Friend of the show, Eric Boyd.
A huge friend. A member of Two Drink Minimum. Eric Boyd. The Eye of Nerol for me, not Merkel. Okay? So let's just go there real quick to page 56. There'll be a map, and I want to show you what I did. Here, this is part of it right here. I love these. I mean, I didn't even realize. I was like, where the hell am I going to place this in my Greyhawk? There should be there's maps on every single one of these. So, here's the Mirror of Dead Men. Now, this is reversed. It's upside down. Actually, no. It's actually turned on this map. Where am I going to place this? I love this thing that the thing's sinking. I'm going to take a forgotten area that no one's using. And I'm going to place this whole area, and it's in my game. It's on my Greyhawk. I keep on forgetting I have to add this on the map. And it's right here. Right here in Furiandi. Right there. That's where my Mirror of Dead Men is. There's nothing there. Hey. Perfect place for it. And there's 5 adventures. And they're all great. And they all have these little mini artifacts. They're called Rings of Merkel. The Rings of Nerol in my game. You'll still see my players to this day go, oh my gosh, I have a Ring of Nerol from 25 years ago when I ran this. So yes, the Mirror of Dead Men is the first one. Giving you an idea of my Forgotten Realm of Greyhawk. It's actually a Forgotten Realm series of adventures that is placed in my Greyhawk. So that'll be my first. And probably my best one for the night. So there you go. But yeah, good job, Sam, getting the Mirror of Dead Men. Because that definitely.
It's a pure quirk that I was.
That's okay.
Up and I stumbled across it like a week ago and read and said, "Dang, how would I adapt this for Greyhawk?"
Exactly. There you go. Now you know. And I placed it in your Kia land too, so you should be happy, right? So yeah, perfect spot. So. But for whatever reason, you can just change that area to a swamp right there, make a little mini swamp right there, and it's sinking and it fits everything you need. So, all right, Sam, you're up. What you got?
Wow. Well, to some degree, I suppose I was going to go on something that's closely related to what Mike was just talking about.
Okay.
And I was thinking, in a sense, this is one of the things that was really lost because of the Greyhawk Wars. If you look the way they're written up before, the Wild Coast is pretty much the definition of a place for a player who hits name level to show up and build his stronghold.
Yes.
Establish his barony, build his wizard tower, build his temple. The Bandit Kingdom's slightly less so, but it's also there. The Wild Coast, though. The Bandit Kingdoms, to a large degree, the Bandit Kingdoms really defines that area. It's like, this is a whole bunch of people of varying loyalty, and I expect they might switch their loyalty, or sometimes they might be allied with the Shield Lands. I mean, that one place on the coast that features an Age of Worms, he just recently rebelled. They might be conquered or swear fealty to 10 at some time, or the Pale. All these places easily can flip back and forth.
Yeah, right.
And, yes, Alhazard. And then again, it's a place players could just show up, say, yeah, you know what, I'm civilizing this area.
And once again, you can do these any time frame you want because the storyline changes slightly. For Wild Coast, it really doesn't that much, except for where Tarash Mak is, which you don't have to do.
Right.
So, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, there's the thing. Even now, anywhere, a lot of places in the Wild Coast, away from any of the big cities, even in the domain of Greyhawk, in and around Hardby,
there's a lot of open space.
They added it in From the Ashes, Lady Karastein's castle.
Yep, right here.
So it's like, oh yeah, so look, a name level PC showed up and built a stronghold.
And her Cheyenne Storyhanded's paramour, cum laude, guess Sharon was in the jail Saturday night from Karastein's castle. Alex played him, and he did really well. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. It's a great one. Except in Living Greyhawk, they kill her.
Oh yeah. So, and the thing is, they're not so much forgotten. It's just that potential, that these are places where, yeah, these are really just set up for the places where you hit name level, and this is where you build your fortress. Because this is where you set up your shrine. I mean, Robilar had his fortress here. Tensor's on near Div in the Cairn Hills. Morning Green is around. This is just a place where you set up, you build a fortress, and then where do you develop from there? There's still, even with a lot of the stuff that they added in City of Greyhawk, and later in From the Ashes, and later still with the LGG, there's still plenty of space in those areas. Just say, no, plopping down a fort here. Okay, yeah, maybe the City of Greyhawk's going to kind of want you to sign up as a Knight of Greyhawk.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes back to something I had mentioned a while ago about the ever popular, okay, you cleared out the layer of the monsters. What do you do with it? Oh, we claim it and take it over for ourselves. And then you face the concept of, okay, but the local ruler wants taxes from you. He wants his cut of everything you took from the place, and he'll want his cut of taxes from the area. And I said, okay, maybe the ruler doesn't say that because he knows you're powerful and dangerous adventurers who just took out a layer that he couldn't. Maybe he says, bold heroes, I grant you a title to that location you just conquered and are moving into without permission and fortifying and such, which again, you're doing without permission. I grant you title to it, and as a special gift to you, I forego your taxes for the next 5 years, provided you fortify the place. Of course, that's going to cost like 5 to 10 times what the taxes would have cost.
Right.
You don't tell them, the players, that at the start. And now, instead of having to fight to keep their money, or the overlord having to fight to get money from the players are like, oh, look how cool we are. We can build our own fort here. And they spend all their money on it anyway.
That is the money drain synopsis thing you can do, because building castles is expensive in the rules. Extremely expensive. And then yours is always a pittance of all the bad guys. For example, over here, my favorite of all time, Lord Mastrine's keep is so formidable that like yours is like, oh, I got a tower, and he's got like 4. It's like, yeah. So that's the cool thing about the game, and it's a good direction to go. And note also when you're talking about this area that you can fit what Rob Kuntz has done with his new Robilar publication.
Absolutely.
In this area right here, because if you just put those woods that he has it in right in this spot here, it's set. That's exactly where. What's the name of those woods, Les? Do you remember?
I forget. It's like the Wildwoods or something like that.
Yeah,
but yeah, and the same thing with the Dark Druids Adventure, and
I have them up here, Dark Druids.
You can plug all those things into there, and it's like Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a return to the old school Wild Coast, and I think that's a good point, Sam. Is that there's
Yep.
something that for all the changes and stuff, there's something about the early potential of the Wild Coast and the Gnarly and the Welkwood and the Sus that kind of got lost after the Greyhawk Wars. So I would consider that a forgotten, a lost, if you will, realm.
Yep.
For play, yeah, definitely.
A fun place to play. And there are, if you know where to pilfer and pick, certain publications have certain different fun things from this
Yeah.
era. For example, Blackthorn is in the Free Seagraph box set.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. The Wailing Halls, which I just referenced in my last adventure I did before GrowCon, is in From the Ashes. All this around here, Hardby, is in the Slavers, right? So you got to be able to know where the stuff is. So you always, but it's all good. It's good stuff. Great one. Great points, man, to do that. Okay, Les.
Okay.
We're on a roll, man. We're on a roll now.
Yes, we are. And hopefully I'm not going to turn that roll into Charmin. What I was going to do was I was going to return to something I've discussed on the show before.
Cool.
And you know what it has to be. Spine Castle and the Bone March. Because I think that even though there was an adventure set there in Dungeon Magazine, and even though it was written up by Gary Holian and who else? Who was the collaborator on that? Stephen Greer. In I believe Dungeon Magazine, and there's some lore attached to it. It really hasn't been explored beyond being this bad place. For a lot of people, you might go there on a mission to liberate something, but the idea that you could actually have something where adventurers wind up sucked into the fabric of the Bone March or the city itself, and the intricate kind of machinations and horrors that take place in such a location. Of course, I did run a Spine Castle. I'm biased. My campaign has been stuck in Spine Castle in a good way. My players have been stuck in Spine Castle for the last couple of years. And, of course, I ran a Spine Castle one-shot at this Greyhawk Con and at the previous one. But one of the interesting things to do is to take that article, Spine Castle, City of the Fallen, from Dungeon, I believe it was Dungeon 148,
Okay.
and to go back and reverse engineer that with some of the earlier Dragon Magazine articles about the Bone March, where Gary and Rob Kuntz were writing up, kind of the battle reports and everything else, and piece together the lore of what happened to the Vile Rune tribe. Why is the Vile Rune tribe no longer in power during the period that Holian is writing about, versus back in the day when the Vile Rune tribe was this, the big orc tribe? What happened in between? What happened to how did the Hextorians consolidate their power within Spine Castle? What's going on elsewhere in the Bone March? One of my favorite little undeveloped things from that article is there's a throwaway reference to a Hobgoblin Keep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Hobgoblin Keep has these masked figures called the Horned Ones, who control they advise the hobgoblins in how to conduct affairs. Now you have the Hextorians in Spine Castle, and right next door you have a keep full of which is predominantly hobgoblin and goblinoid population, which is manipulated by these Horned Ones. I wonder who they could be, or what they could be the remnants of, if you buy into the I use wiped out the Horned Society plot.
That's
so
awesome.
if you see what I mean, there's there's all that kind of stuff. There's a Svart run mine in the vicinity in the Rakers.
I love Svart.
You obviously are going to have all kinds of smuggling going around back and forth. It's an exciting place, and it offers a lot of adventure opportunities. And if you're running a one-shot, this would be my advice to DMs who are leery of running evil-themed one-shots. If your player characters are evil, but they share a common goal, and they're up against something that's worse than themselves or destructive to their interests. It's one of those things where the supervillains team up, right? Because there's a problem that's bigger than them, or these superheroes have gotten out of hand. Something like that can really work effectively if you're running a one-shot set in an area like this. That's how I've tended to run. I've run 2 Spine Castle one-shots at virtual Greyhawk cons now, and that's what I did. And there has been a bit of betrayal and a little bit of backstabbing, and there was also a cleric of Hexdor who basically his god rejected him because he was touched by chaos and was clearly weak.
Nice.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you need to go ahead. You can explore those kinds of ideas and do so without having it where every character is out for themselves, quote unquote, because that's what my character would do. Evil doesn't have to be dumb, right? And evil can at times see, if I screw over this person can't take care of this problem for me, or this person is better equipped to handle this kind of problem for me than this other person. And then you get into the moral ambiguity of, if you overthrow certain types of evil in this area, would that result in wholesale slaughter? Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of game that I love playing. And again, it's the idea that you have these familiar races, your orcs, your hobgoblins, your goblins, and your gnolls especially. Oh, the gnolls. And you have cults of Erythnol and Hexdor and others at play. And the idea that there's this precarious balance that's keeping the city together, and sooner or later, one of those dominoes is going to fall, and everything will collapse. It's almost inevitable. And the bad guys are fighting that off. The good guys might want to see everything collapse, but the problem is that a lot of, people who are slaves and people who are being held captive will suffer as a result of that. So whatever gain you would get from it is offset by the potential catastrophic loss. So again, it gets into those kinds of areas that I love pushing my players into, and also unintended consequences.
Yeah.
My players have accidentally triggered a coup there, which resulted in all kinds of stuff, including possible onset of starvation, which the player characters in Friday night's game had to figure out a way to stave off.
Cool.
So yeah, fun times. And I think, again, Curtis and Patrick and a bunch of people who were in Friday night's game will vouch. We had a grand old time. And it was bloody, and it was funny, and backs were stabbed. Priests of Zilchus were paid. Bargains were struck.
Zilchus guys.
And bargains were struck. Pacts with goblins were negotiated, and it was a fun time full of action, negotiation, role play, and oh my goodness, what the hell just happened? So, yeah.
Glory be there. Yes, Michael Baton, the greatest Zilchus priest of them all. Naz, I'm just joking. Les and everyone, here's my just silly what if or question about Greyhawk and Spine Castle. Normal adventuring starts campaign-wise 570 plus, right? 570, 575. Is Spine Castle the most played location in Greyhawk that is pre-played before 570?
How do you mean? Because
it fell in 563, right?
Correct.
So a lot of people want to go back and relive that and play that, right? So is this like, when you're running campaign games, is that the number one spot that goes before the campaign starts in the glossography time? I thought Spine Castle would fit that role more than any other spots.
It could.
Okay.
For myself, what I do is, and we've discussed this before about how I run things. My games in the 570s and 580s, which is when a lot of my one-shots take place, are first edition / Osric.
Okay.
Everything 598 onward, which is where
5e,
quote-unquote current day begins, is done using heavily modified 5e.
Okay.
So that way, you kind of get this shift in the tone and also in the rule set, but you also get a bit of more of an old school flavor. But it's still basically an occupied, a city run by humanoids. But the difference in that would be, I think, that how the players respond and what that can do to certain powers of, say, clerics and etc., is obviously going to be a lot harder the earlier you go, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I kind of enjoy that too. That you kind of get to play with the not only with the setting itself, but you can use the setting as a way, for me at least, to explore and to introduce the older rule set to bring some of these youngsters and noobs back to old school gaming.
Example.
We're going into the past to explore this thing that happened years ago that you guys have heard about but never got to see. Example?
Our oldest sub outside my inner circle of friends, the Nazrat, just hit 60 months, 5 years today.
Hey, congrats, man.
He started out at 5e, and now he's not playing it. He's playing OSE. OSE for you, Naz? He's playing he's playing old school.
Old school essentials.
Yeah, he's playing old school.
Excellent.
Yep.
And that be the thing is that I've got to say that I now have players who are capable of shifting between systems.
Which is cool.
And who love, by the way, first edition. They've come to love first edition as much as they do fifth. But they also like my version of fifth because my version of fifth, there is no guarantee that you will come out with your head intact. Patrick. Just kidding, Patrick, by the way. You did such a great job.
Patrick always fails rolls. I mean, Patrick's one of the worst rollers I've ever seen. Except in BattleTech. He does real well good in MechWarrior BattleTech. In D&D, he rolls badly.
Patrick, I got to say that the entire team, it was Gary Holian and Patrick and Curtis and a bunch of other people. It was just such a great team on Friday night, too. I was blessed with great players on both days.
And he was eaten on Saturday, Alex?
Yeah, he was decapitated and lost his hands and feet to a vanished cobweb golem, which is a long story. But anyway, on a Friday night, that was his
got
fate
eaten
then.
On Saturday. That's a weekend for you. And then Juan Carlos got Juan Carlos actually won, right? He beat Luke's. Oh, that's funny. All right, so that's another great one, Les. Thank you so very much. A fun discussion. All right, Anna, what do we got?
Okay, now I have another. It's not near a lake, but there is a coastline in it. But it's one of these very most forgotten places. Can anyone place the Dun Coast in Greyhawk?
Isn't that down near Saltmarsh?
Nope.
No, because the Duntide River.
It's on the wrong side of the map. So,
I have no idea.
So you're disqualified.
I am out of it.
One, so we can understand. Yeah, it's actually in United Kingdom of Alyssa. It's in the between Onval and Alyssa. There is like a. There you go. You're spot on. Perfect. There you go. That's the
Dunhead Bay.
Yep, that's one of the most forgotten areas. Onval is not forgotten. They had a great LG campaign and put lots of stuff in there and Iron Gate has its stuff. Right here. Exactly, but that area west of the Iron Hills and the western part of the Elysian Plains, they are basically forgotten. You have the Ice Spire out there. That's the only really location that is mentioned anywhere. This Stevoxal and Idolsok and the stuff, they are from Living Greyhawk campaign and they're maybe mentioned somewhere. I really scraped the bottom of the barrel for names in the LG material, so they're maybe mentioned once and they're not really set anywhere. They're just mentioned as part of a backstory, so I just placed them there, so to speak. And it's, to me, it's an area that is interesting in that sense that it's large enough that you can fill it with cool stuff. It's also an area where you can have dwarves, humans, maybe the occasional humanoid and stuff, but you can, I think and you have a few locations like I Aspire and then you have there's at least a possibility of having your local thugs or your little hidden way cult or something that you can get to. So it's one of these areas where I think you can set up shop for low level adventuring. I think it will be great because you have no major villains that are hiding out, no IUCNs or stuff like that. No big name villains, so you can invent your own little local villain or something, or someone. So in that sense, it's one of the really most forgotten places in the setting, so to speak.
I have never been here ever in a campaign.
Exactly, me neither. I've never been there, and I don't think hardly anyone else have been there. So Living Greyhawk barely went there. Someone just placed the name on the map, I think. So it's really It's so when it comes to being forgotten, I think it's high on the list of most forgotten parts of the Flannies.
And you got plenty of there's plenty of things you can develop here.
Yeah, and it's not too far away from places that are mentioned and have lots of stuff. So it's a little backyard. You can invent your own little local hoodlums and villains and heroes and towns and whatnot, so to speak, that you can kind of create something with.
You can even slip in Scarlet Brotherhood people if you really want to be a pain.
Exactly. They can have a secret base there to raid in and stuff like that. So you can and other people can come because it's a coastline, so people can actually come and do stuff, so to speak. So it's a possibility of cool. You can have, what about old forgotten Flan cults and stuff? Undead from old Flan. There might be some forgotten cairns and stuff that were built early on that no one had inspected or went to in a long time. Idea. So you can have a little bit of undead spooked away somewhere and stuff like that. So I think it's an area really perfect suited to develop your own little hamlet and your own little adventures and stuff for low up to mid tier, and then you can go out and adventure in the world.
And then you're just like Greyhawks on the other side. You can go to Iron Gate.
Yeah, exactly. Meaning then you have plenty of places. Onval is ripe for things and so on. Secret base for the Scarlet Brotherhood to attack Onval from the other side, so to speak. A good one. Yep. So,
awesome.
So it doesn't have much, but it's truly forgotten. So yeah.
Has any of us on here ever even remotely adventured here?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Hence Forgotten Realm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Excellent. Mike, what do you got?
I think Anna's area that she was talking about, though, would be a good area if you wanted to do some ancient Flan adventuring.
Yeah. Remnants of Alyssa.
Yeah. Hey, so during the Virtual Greyhawk Con, Guild Superior Dave, he ran an adventure that was set in the Ice Barbarians, and he used one of my maps that I had posted on Greyhawkery. It's the Ice Barbarians, and it's a region in the Tyval Tundra that I had developed back into a lot of my most creative era is second edition. I had mapped the entire Falanran Peninsula coast, just all the way around. And this is just like one zoomed in part of that. And I had centered a small little campaign around it. And then Dave did his one shot over the top of what I had created. Anyhow, long story short, if we're talking about coastlines and remote areas to set a campaign or to carve out your little kingdom, I think that whole north coast of Krusky is amazing. I mean, if you could put up with the ICC, but I think it's just an amazing place that you could set dwarven strongholds.
Yep.
Your, barbarian longhouses and your long,
I'm taking off one on my list here, so good job, Mike.
Just so, if you want that kind of northerly setting, I think that's a really good place to explore. Mm-hmm. Never mind that the mountain ranges are, infinitely vast.
Yeah.
But the Tyval Tundra is there's got to be something going on there.
Carlos has an adventure right here, John Splat. From his cold dead hands. Is that the adventure, if I recall it correctly?
Yeah.
And one little tidbit or anecdote: there is one of my favorite musical group is Heilung. Heilung has
Oh, yeah.
a song that where they use a poem that is in like ancient North.
Oh, cool.
They mention Taival. That's the place they
Yeah.
mention in the poem. It's so
And
neat.
Anna, just so you know, they're playing here in a few weeks, and I'm actually going to the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Damn, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. Cool. Oh, I'm so jealous. Damn, I want to see Heilung live.
They're great. They're great.
Oh,
I can't wait to see them. That was on my bucket list of concerts to go to. So
that's awesome.
If there's one concert band in the world I want to see live, it's Heilung. Yeah.
Now, as you saw them, they're fantastic live. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And since I speak several of the languages they use
great.
in their stuff, so I can understand they're speaking old versions of German, Scandinavian, various Nordic languages and English and stuff. It's awesome. It sounds so authentic in a pseudo fantastic way, so to speak. That is just always just the Heilung are just awesome. But sorry, that was a
that's okay. We're allowed to get off track a little bit. It's fine.
Yes, 491 Phantom was in that game.
All right, cool.
Frostfang's Fury. That was the name of the adventure that Dave ran. So let us know how that was.
It was the last stream of the con live stream. So that's cool. Fantastic. Yeah, 491. If you want to put in some stuff, please do. Alrighty, next round up. So what we got, Sam? What you got to be pondering something here.
I'll go to an area. It's both not forgotten, but is forgotten.
Okay.
If we go down to Keeland and we go to Saltmarsh, and then we look over from Saltmarsh to the county of New Meor. Now, of course, Saltmarsh has its adventure. New Meor technically has its adventure, Tomb of the Lizard King. And Voltron's Beacon is mostly towards the Keeland area.
Yep.
If we look at this map, we see we have Saltmarsh. We see we have renamed Jadre. I forget what the name was, but what Gary named it originally over in New Meor. We have that whole Dreadwood above it. We have the Hool Marsh below it. But what about that road from Saltmarsh to New Meor?
Yep.
It's going to be in that. I call that area the Dread Verge.
Right. Okay.
Between the Dreadwood and the marsh, it's going to be it's not going to be a marsh, but it's going to be wet, damp, squishy. And it's going to be essential because, you can go north around it. Yes, cross the Good Hills, tromp all the way across Keeland, get to Gradsel. You can try going up the Hool River through the Hool Marsh. I suppose you might survive that. I mean, we know it's navigable. We know ships do it, but it's still going to be relatively dangerous. Or you can try that nice, quick overland route. So that trail needs to be kept open. It needs to be kept open. It's an important trail. But how dangerous is it going to be?
Well, considering there's a black dragon roaming around here, probably pretty dangerous, right?
And that's an area I always wanted to develop. I had said it. I had named it. I wanted to do something with it in Living Greyhawk. I never got around to it. But I think that's a region that's just ripe for adventuring. Because you have major encounter areas at both ends. And you have a place where, you're going to get attacked by lizardmen from the swamp and whatever the heck is lurking in the Dreadwood. And if you go too far into the Dreadwood, the elves will attack you as well.
No, it's a great spot. I love the spot, Sam. So much so. I'm sorry. I'm being Casey tonight. Everyone knows where the Dun Mounds right here is Hard in the Holes right here. So, yes, my only published adventure so far.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep. So This area is so rife with. We did an entire Dragonwood campaign back in the day, back in the late '80s, because I loved the area. But yeah, that's another great take on it. Is like this, the whole area, the trail, and there's so much going on here. And I know some of this is retconned, right? Is Baltron's Beacon really there?
It was never set there, but it was annexed in.
Right.
In
It's
the
a
LGG.
yeah, it's a cool spot for it. Now I have also run Baltron's Beacon here.
Yep.
I run Baltron's Speaking in the Mist Marsh too. So you got options. You got options, but
Yes.
whoops, I went too far. But yeah, you're dead on an area that you can pull from other sources. You can pull from Sakatha, and you can pull from Baltron's Beacon. You can pull from all the Salt Marsh Adventures. There's a lot of published stuff on Keeland, and get an amalgamation of some really cool things, and then you can just run with it from there. Great point. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It's a place I want to develop. I did some development later. I figured, there was probably some ancient lizard kingdom dedicated to Tiamat somewhere in there.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And there's got to be something else in the Dreadwood, some other thing that the elves are fighting. And of course, and then this was something I did develop for Living Greyhawk, that whatever's in the Hool Marsh is fighting whatever's in the Dreadwood, and they know the secret. Those lizard men know the secret of locking away certain evil within the Dreadwood. But can you find the lizard men that still remember it amidst all the
Taint.
demon worshipping lizard kings?
Yeah.
And then can you convince them to actually help you?
It could be a very good druidic based campaign.
Reynard is in there, so there's definitely the great druid of the Sheldamar, if not the whole Flenaze, depending on how you use that from your AD&D and later Unearthed Arcana. There's the Dreadwalkers. There's all the stuff, like I say, this is stuff Gary Holian developed, Validus, and them protecting that and people trying to get into Validus. And like I say, that Dreadverge is just perfectly set.
Yep.
Have people from some dink little village, little messenger post there, and they can go throughout this region. They can go into the Yeomanry, they can go into the Sea Princes, they can come into normal Keeland. Like, wait, people aren't always, covered in sweat from the humidity.
You just said a key point. Normal Keeland. A lot of people forget this area's Keeland.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and this is something I had to bring up to Gary, and I was talking with Mike about this when we were doing the Sea Princess stuff. According to Greyhawk Wars, when the Scarlet Brotherhood invaded and took over the Sea Princes, they invaded Keeland. They conquered about the southern half, 2/3 of the Dreadwood. If you break out your map from the Ashes, you will see that borderline drawn through the Dreadwood.
Inexplicably.
How? Yeah, that makes no sense.
I don't think Zeb thought that one through, but oh well.
Yeah.
Well, yes, probably not, but there it is. And the thing is, even if you discount that they could control it, Roger Moore definitely includes elements when he's talking later about Keeland coming back down, fighting, and eventually taking Westkeep.
Right.
So it's relevant in the post-war material, in LGG material, and this opens up even more adventuring concepts. If you're going through the whole warrior, you have to flee Saltmarsh because hordes of the Omen or Ameti Sul, Hetmona Sul are coming to destroy it. Then you have to come back with the Kiowish army and liberate it.
It's a cool area that, you're right, is not forgotten because of the Saltmarsh publication. Goes to Saltmarsh and all of that, but technically you got a lot you could do in this area. Lots and lots of intrigue. Yeah. And it's not that large of an area either. It's not like it's grandiose as far in size.
No, but
yeah, but it's got some good opportunities. Absolutely.
yeah, Mark Lance has its book because I use his Big and Famous, but this is a really intense border. The Liberation, the Lost Lands, they're there because you got giants, but here you don't have all the fun, neat stuff. You have those forgotten jungle things. You have those forgotten swamp things. You have a couple of minor adventures. And everyone's like, yeah, that's low level stuff. I'm high level. Okay, there's plenty of room for high level campaigning on the Dreadverge Trail.
Great one. That was fantastic. Les.
Oh, yes. So, I kind of got into the idea of Spine Castle as a place that's almost the D&D equivalent of a flyover state, right? People go ahead and they have their adventures, or a resort. You have your adventures, you leave it. It's the Las Vegas of D&D. What happens there stays there. You go ahead and leave. Or something similar. What I'm looking at now is something I had mentioned to you before, and I've been digging and developing, and I'm going to throw into my campaign at some point. So I'm going to be a bit sketchy.
That's fine.
But I do want to recommend that people look at it as a possible place for adventures. The Twin Cities, right? That would be Rinloru and Winitha. Yeah.
Damn, now you're getting close to area. I'm taking off one of mine.
Oh,
Awesome.
tell me, is that Almer? I don't even know where that is.
No. Further northeast. Northeast. Yeah. We're southeast.
Right at the edge
North
of the
Kingdom.
North Province / North Kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Southeastern area of the North Kingdom.
Yeah. Oh, it's on
the far east. Yeah, there you go. It's in the southeast of that image there.
It's over here.
There you have it. Yep.
Yep.
I've never. There it is. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. I've never adventured here too either. I'm sorry, everyone.
It's a cool area.
I'm ignorant.
It has some
I'm ignorant.
Cool stories to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I love about it, Anna. Is
go for it.
Back in the day, Carl Sargent published his campaign journal stuff back in Dragon Magazine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And later, that material from I think Dragon 204 was incorporated into Ivid the Undying, along with some expanded material, with some expansions to the material. And the idea would be, now, I'm pretty darn fond of places that aren't necessarily, how can I put this, conducive to the player character's well-being. Everyone loves a good challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these two
Rinloru
cities
is an excellent challenge. Yeah.
Exactly. You have basically two cities, right? And one of them was developed as a trade port for dealing with the Sea Barons, and one of them was built inland. Winetha was built inland to support Rinloru as it was kind of a defensive position to deal with barbarian, basically supply, defense, stuff like that for Rinloru. Now, what you have is you have House Tarquin in charge of Rinloru, and specifically a very deranged member of House Tarquin. And you have House Garisteth in charge. Excuse me, am I getting those reversed?
Yeah, you got them reversed.
Exactly.
Okay.
You get the cities reversed. Rinloru is inland.
Rinloru is, yeah. And so you've got a particularly deranged member, Delgath, right?
Yep.
Who was turned into an animus by Ivid, and kind of just went nuts, and decided that he was going to embrace his undeath in a way, and just turn everything around him into undead. He became a worshipper of Nurl.
Mm-hmm.
And now he slew, like one incident it mentions, with priests of Nurl spirited into his halls, Delgath slew 1,000 souls in one night and animated them over the coming weeks as undead.
Yep.
To the assembled masses of the city, he proclaimed that he was now Delgath the Undying, and that any who opposed him or sought to escape his realm would not only be slain, but subjected to torments after death, which they could hardly even begin to imagine. So
that's
basically,
the best. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, go on.
I was going to say this is the best neural cult example from the whole of the Flannies, and it's
so badass.
Exactly, it's
It
fantastic.
is so metal.
Is this his heraldry with the blood drop on it?
Yes.
And basically, like as it mentions, and I love the
that's earlier heraldry. That's
not even bad heraldry.
Exactly,
Oh
that's not even bad enough. But no,
and I love what everyone thinks of Carl Sargent. This is a masterful stroke of understatement in prose. Faced with a vast squad of undead flanking the red-robed maniac, whose own powers were evident from the serried ranks of people forced to kneel at his magical command, the survivors believed him.
I love the idea of having an adventure where you have to go up and get control of Rinlor and get to it. Oh, that was
and
awesome.
And meanwhile, he's accumulating all these artifacts and evil magic, right? So if it has to do with undeath, if it has to do with necromancy, if it has to do with any of those kinds of fields, he wants it.
Yeah, and now I'm going, because this is part of my a future campaign. I'm thinking this is so cool, and the Delgath is only the mid-level villain. There is a bigger villain behind him.
The Dreadlord.
Yeah.
Who knows, so to speak. But I think it's so cool that you have a neural cult that is only the mid-level villain. So you can start out low, you can get the skirmish from them, so to speak, and then you can go and get to him as around 10th level, and then when you're in Rinlor, that's when you realize the magnitude of the problem, and that's when you can get to the big one, so to speak. I think it's a great one.
Good.
There's another element with that. Delglath and the other one each have one part.
I was coming to that, Sam.
Yeah.
That was part of my...
Good.
Sorry, please go ahead.
No, it's no problem. So you have, on the one hand, you've got Delgath, right? Mm-hmm. The flip side of Delgath is you have, in Winnestra, you've got House Tarquin, and you've got, what's his name? My mind's gone blank. Just a second. Lancaster, that's his name. And he's basically another powerful spellcaster. And it mentions that he takes the long view. He's actually unnaturally prolonged his life using various magical forms of longevity.
So on the one hand, animus stuff.
Yeah. Basically, you've got one guy who's an animus and who's like creating armies of undead, and then you got the other guy who wants to, everybody wants to rule the world. Cue the Tear for Fear song. Tears for Fear song. Who is basically unnaturally prolonging his own life,
but not undead,
and acquiring magical items.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong with these two as neighbors, right?
My gosh.
Well, and here's the catch. They, as Sam was suggesting, these wonderful characters have access to some very, very powerful and dangerous artifacts. They have access to the mace and talisman of Creville, right, who was a dread priest of Neril. And he has a mace, which is messed up to begin with. +4 mace, animates dead once a day, energy drain 3 times a week by touch, and a talisman that can cause paralysis once a day. Now, and they can only be used by evil-aligned spellcasters. But here's the catch. If the two are held by a priest of Neril, their power is vastly enhanced. Right? Now, here's the problem. One of those rulers has one of those items, and the other ruler has the other item.
Yes.
Oh, but there's more.
There's also the helm and wand of Linarden the Spinner.
Yes.
The ancient Iridian mage. The helm, if worn, is a -3 bonus, AC bonus, and +3 to all saving throws. It can cast all these spells. Then there's a wand that grants the user a +3 bonus against all fire and cold base attacks and can cast fireball and cone of cold. When they're wielded by the same archmage, that increases their power. And
my
it actually
gosh.
mentions in passing that in one of the sources, I forget which, it might be the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, it might be somewhere else, that Mordenkainen himself has suggested that if someone got their hands on these items and it came to blows, the magic involved could just be catastrophic to whatever region it's released in.
I'd say.
So it's like basically a localized apocalypse, right? If this all pans out. So these two are locked in this contest of wills, and we're doing trade. And meanwhile, they want to destroy. One of them wants, each one wants to get rid of the other to see their house ascendant and to be the one in charge of everything. And meanwhile, of course, you've got trade with the Sea Barons going on. You've got all kinds of other stuff in the background of this. And to me, tell me this does not sound like a location just rife for adventuring and for player characters to accidentally trigger things going horribly, horribly wrong.
And there's
which is
a
always a
lot
joy.
of open space to play stuff.
And so, yeah, that would be one of my choices. I haven't really seen that place exploited as much as it should be, and I think that those actually BB Fan Fun mentions over there Aerty houses are kind of like Game of Thrones, exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Except in this case with a hunger for the apocalypse and a fetish for the undead.
Mm-hmm.
Renloro sounds like a Fey wizard almost to me.
And also sorry, go on, Les.
No, go on.
I was going to say, we just mentioned Nerul is an old Flan god.
Yeah, exactly.
You have multiple dimensions of conflict here that can be so
exactly
cool. Yeah.
And I love the idea that he was turned into into an animus.
Exactly.
And it's like his reaction is almost this cultural repulsion where he embraces, like he goes Flan.
Yep, exactly.
He's like,
he embraces the mini. He becomes an enemy of his own kind because they treated him so bad.
And more than that, it's like I'm going to revel in it. I'm going to have undead everywhere, and all of you out there, you're going to bow to me because I'm awesome now. Yeah, go on, Sam.
And here's where I'll throw in, because I actually use this.
Excellent.
It was my One Living Greyhawk adventure.
Oh.
I glanced over that plot hook because one of the things with the plot hook is as it goes, each has one item of each set.
Yeah.
And they're contemplating trading it. And if it says they're contemplating trading,
yep.
Well, neither one knows for sure if they'll wind up with more power from the deal.
Yep.
And because nobody knows what the combined powers are. So I set up an adventure where someone actually found a book that actually explains what the combined powers of these two artifact sets are.
Decoder ring.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, the guy is sort of not a wimp, but he's not particularly powerful. So he comes up with an idea where he creates a fake book.
Yeah.
He makes sure the real book is still carefully warded in a box, and he arranges for the party to find the fake book after, killing some ogres.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they'll open the box, and they'll pull out the book.
What's in the box?
Yes, at which point, every divination spell that both of those guys has going, that Mordenkainen has going, that every power monger in the Flanays has going to try to find out what these artifacts will do if these idiots actually trade them or one kills the other and claims them both. And now it targets the players.
Yep.
And so everybody shows up at representatives of everybody shows up on their doorstep expecting the players to sell the book to them.
Yep. Or give it.
Yes. Yes. The Knights of the Heart
you mean in exchange for your life. Yeah.
Well, the Knights of the Heart show up and say, well, yes, you should donate this to us.
Yeah.
Ayuda's agent shows up and says, you should sell this to us because, we're going to kill you anyway and take the money back, but you should sell this to us first.
Yeah.
And the whole adventure is the players having to decide what to do. The players, of course, will look at the book and realize, wait a minute, this book is fake.
Yep.
Naturally, nobody will believe them. And then this is where the guy who found it shows up and says, hey, PC guys, I have the real book that everyone wants you to give them. You get the money for me, give it to me, and I'll let you have the real book so you can give it to one of them.
Nice. I was thinking of something along similar lines, Sam. It involved fake artifacts, carefully enchanted to go ahead and scan as the real thing. And all kinds of scams involving that. And I had contemplated like a MacGuffin, not unlike your book, where it would be a similar kind of thing, where basically the player characters wind up passing along some information that's not necessarily 100% accurate. Because I love the potential. Again, there's this idea that if the players meddle in these affairs, and I've always loved this about certain locations, the results could be catastrophic. It's like you think at first you're just doing a gig, right? You're just finding some treasure, or you're getting paid by a patron to do something, and then it's like, oh no. That kind of snowball effect is just exactly oh my. I kind of love that kind of situation because it puts the players on the spot. And especially, I love when, Sam, another thing I love having is when characters turn up like that, NPCs turn up like that, and make the players an offer. And there's an undercurrent, there's a subtext of, oh, and you're going to accept our offer, aren't you?
Yes.
No choice.
Yeah, well, we're offering you the choice of dying painfully or accepting the offer. Yeah, and again, this is that idea, too, that there is no good guy who you're helping in this, per se. Not with these two guys. These are not nice fellas. These are members of, a decadent aristocracy who are locked in a power struggle, and I guess you could say one of them is slightly better than the other, but what they ultimately want each one wants would just bring on catastrophe. And there's a certain glory to that.
There is, man.
There's a certain beauty to that. There's a certain symmetry. I mean, this is like something, in a weird way, this reminds me of something that you'd find in an old Doctor Who or Star Trek episode. So yeah, that would be one of my choices.
That was
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
An area, once again, who am I? But never use the area.
Yeah,
Jay, I thought about this, and actually I'm fleshing out now. And if any of my players are listening, God help your souls. After Spine Castle, this is where you're going to be adventuring.
It was this plot was part of my Rel Devon campaign, but we never got to that part, so to speak. But
really?
This part was, I wrote this that part of the story that's when I introduced the Zestra first time.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then since I didn't get there, I had to reintroduce her, so she had to take on another role. But she was actually Gerast's since she was kind of supporting the old faith, so she was sent in as a consultant to make sure that the neural code thrived properly, so to speak, and take out some of the Hextorians and stuff, so to speak. So it was a lot of intrigue and stuff that didn't go anywhere. So I've kept it, and sooner or later I will use it. Yep.
There are a lot of great places. I'm just going to plug this throughout the Great Kingdom itself and the North Kingdom and Alyssa. Almer comes to mind as another place that I think is underutilized. Shout out to DM Sam out there, DM Samuel.
Yes, he uses Almer.
And he loves Almer, and I would agree it's an underused location. There are just tons of locations like
destroyed.
that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not a location and can't be explored. Just because it's a wreck, just because the house is a wreck, doesn't mean you can't have guests, Mike.
Yeah.
So exactly. Almer and Chatholder are great examples. I just wanted to throw those in there because if you look throughout Ivid the Undying, or look throughout the entire map of the Great Kingdom, North Province, Alyssa, there are all kinds of spots you can find that I think are just ready for exploitation by DMs who are hungry to throw some challenges at their players.
Another great one, Les. Absolutely. All right, Anna, as we're winding down time-wise, what do you got for us?
Okay, let's see which one. There was one. Well, we talked about one last time, so I'm going to take it because it ties into what we had. We talked about it last time, and it ties into this time too, and it ties into Allmore too. So there are two post-apocalyptic battlegrounds that if you want to run kind of after the catastrophe in Greyhawk, there are two areas that are underutilized, forgotten, in both in a way in setting, but also that's interesting because Samwise you really you taking it from an from a game perspective and or from an in-setting perspective, and I'm taking it more from a look at the game. Where haven't we had any stories about Wild Coast, for example? Wild Coast is an area that is forgotten in the setting, but is definitely not forgotten in publications of Greyhawk. It's mentioned in numerous adventures. It's kind of interesting because I'm usually the one that always think from the setting perspective. That's why it's so awesome, Sam, that you take in the perspective from the setting perspective, so to speak. But I'm going to stick with my look at the setting from an outside perspective where they published stuff. And there's two places if you want to run a game where you want to go through a disaster zone, so to speak, and you want to have after the big war or whatever. And there's the cool stuff. There is a warm-up section where you can send your low-level adventurers to get a training ground for getting to the big area afterwards. And the first one I'm talking about is Chathold in Almor.
Right.
That was a city that the capital of Almor that was wiped out. That you have some leftover demons, and you have your kind of ruined area that is now, if you in like my campaign 15 years after the war, there's not most of it is cleared up, but you can find the occasional little stuff to go around, so you can send your characters there as a training ground for the big one, and that's Rossi's. And
Yes.
Rossi's, I think, it's a forgotten area. It's the crown jewel in the setting in many ways, and it's now a forgotten wasteland that I think has some really cool potential because there are some awesome places in Ross's. You have the pillar of what it's called, where you have the eternal terror or torment or something like that. So it's a place that is doubly spooky, and it was kind of terrible and evil in many ways. Back in the day, it was like a golden capital of an empire, and then it fell down into become a shithole, basically, of even villainy and deviltry or something during the even last years, and then it kind of imploded in a huge explosion. So I think there's an enormous potential for adventure in that area where you can play around, and that could be the high level ground, so to speak. And you can also have, what if there is a more ancient city in that war grounds? Maybe the ARD built the capital there for a reason, in order to state a claim to the area from a previous one. And you never always wonder what the name Urflan comes from. And that's what, yeah, sorry, go on, Les.
No, I was going to say, there's that, and there's also, I just wanted to interject this right quick while it was on my mind. If one were to go earlier in Roxas, of course, Rob Kuntz has those 4 adventures.
Yeah.
The Maze of Zane.
Yeah.
Adventures.
In multiple editions.
But the cool thing about that is that the first 2 of them, he did them when he was in college, and they were originally set, of course, in the Great Kingdom and had Ivid V. And Jim Ward actually ran them, I think, in '82. And they were originally slated for TSR publication, but then when Kuntz left, I think it was Creations Unlimited did them.
And then Necromancer Games.
And then added the 2 more, yeah.
The third
so there's some more. I just wanted to throw out that there's additional, if one chooses to incorporate that material.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think Rossi's have tons of potential that we haven't used. And there's
absolutely.
So many NPCs that are mentioned in even the Undying and stuff, and there are some detail, and there is even a primitive map made
Got
of
me.
for Rosses that I don't think is anywhere near what it should be, but it has some cool locations and stuff. But yeah, it's an area ripe for or it basically forgotten compared to what it should be, so to speak. There's
Yeah.
so much cool stuff, and it's also a place you can go back in history. You can go back to ancient history, like 2,000 years ago or something, before when the Erdi got there, and what was there before, because it is such a strategic location when the two main rivers, and it's the river valley, or the river area is one of the biggest rivers, so it's a strategic location in the setting, so I can understand why the capital was placed there.
I think also I would throw in that if one wanted to do a campaign for the long haul,
Yeah.
the connection of Zane to Roxas and Ivid is kind of neat in that if you look at Mar Castle, Zane is, of course, mentioned in that as someone who the Mar family had been told would be coming at some point.
Yep.
And Zane is supposed to have originally, if memory serves, he originally appeared on the Wild Coast and then made his way north. So there's a kind of, if you see what I mean, you could stretch those connections.
Yep.
And tie together the history with the Flan, the Aerdi, and even the Sewell with the Mar family, and the way that Zane has kind of impacted and his pernicious influence has touched all these cultures.
Yep. And you have the court wizard Karulk and others and arch wizards, and there's a whole bunch of cool characters and NPCs. So even the Undying is really, it has tons of cool stuff in there. So.
Oh yeah, I love that book.
Yeah. So it's not really forgotten in the sense it's forgotten, but they should be done more with it. It's not completely forgotten because there is
like
material
I said,
published.
Neglected is also forgotten in a way.
Yeah.
Or not utilized enough. Yeah.
And this is a gray area discussion too, so we're it's just
it means what we want it to mean.
Exactly.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Hey, great babe.
We'll finish this up with Mike because we are almost to that 10 o'clock time frame here. So, what do you got,
Good
Mike?
discussion, everybody.
Yes,
I got
great.
nothing. I got nothing.
You don't got nothing. You don't got the bookkeeper.
Best
you got
of
nothing.
Greyhawkery. Go to Best of Greyhawkery. There's probably 100 posts on there.
What about your post about the Orc City, man?
Yeah.
The Orc City.
Oh, up near Stonefist?
No.
The one up in the mountains. The one up. Remember, it was in one of the three Shelby one or whatever.
Yeah.
Kelton. Kelton.
That's on Best of Greyhawkery.
Oh, you mean Garel Engdahl?
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, Garel.
I remember you did a post about that, Mike.
Yeah. That's on Best of Greyhawkery.
Here it is.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all
real quick. There's Garel Engdahl up in the Stonefist.
I just want to say that Greyhawkery is a great source for this stuff. So I'm plugging your blog for you, bro. It's a great source. It is a great resource. It really is.
Forgotten Realms. All is built over the top of an Aerdian civilization that is now lost. So there's your Forgotten Realm.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah. I love that idea.
And those two adventures, the North, whatever, and Five Shall Be One,
in the North,
are very generic. They're not that detailed. They just throw in little tidbits here and there, right? It's on there, and there's a lot of things you could develop off of it, which is great. So, good one.
The Orc City is probably the most developed thing because of the poster map and all that.
So, we'll end up with that, and let's do a general synopsis roundtable on your thoughts on the discussion, and he may have some other ones you want to say for another time too. So I think
we need a second episode.
I think this went very well. So Sam, what are your thoughts?
I think, however you look at it, there's a lot of stuff there outside the published adventures, outside the direct descriptions and plot hooks in the published material. There's just so much to explore in Greyhawk, from not merely from obscure bits here and there in the text, but just look at the map and say, well, wait, what about that place?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And nothing wrong with
Definitely.
nothing wrong with doing it somewhere that no one else has played at, and you're not gonna, giving it a shot. So I'm surprised no one mentioned 10 tonight.
See, that was actually on my long list.
Oh my!
I squeezed in. Almer was on my long list as well, so I tried to squeeze in everything. But yeah, 10 would be on mine as well. And
Stonefist.
Yep, that would be on mine too.
Les, what's your thoughts on this discussion?
I really enjoyed the discussion with you guys. I think we covered a lot of bases from, as Samuel was suggesting, and it's something I'm quite fond of, picking different sources and kind of reading between the lines and connecting dots to generate your own spaces and your own adventures and your own flavor, really. And Anna and Sam discussing populations and borders and the porousness of certain borders. And Mike's suggestions, as always, stellar. And Jay, I always love hearing what you've done in your campaign.
Thanks.
And on my end, I was hoping to mention some things, some applications that I've made in my own campaign and in my one shots with this. Some of these spots that players don't necessarily think of going to, or think of exploring, or something like the Fading Realms, where people might shy away because they think it's hokey Fey BS, or weird. Oh, that's just too weird. I'm like, at times it's okay to go weird. I was worried that I would fall flat on my face and my players would want to eat my liver for lunch. With that one shot, and it turned out once they started rolling with it and realizing, hey, our characters could die. This is actually kind of serious business. I think that they really got into it, and I hope they enjoyed it. They seem to have, and I consider that a success. Again, don't be afraid to draw outside of the lines or color outside of the lines and to make Greyhawk your own. Don't be afraid to take some chances with places that you haven't used or ideas that you might not feel 100% comfortable with. Go ahead and try, because ultimately I think that's how we grow as DMs, and through the experience of these things is how we grow as players, and we get a deeper sense of our appreciation for this wonderful setting through those kinds of explorations. That'd be my point.
It's a great point. Example. Who would have thunk that I would have run that Dumb Puppets last fundraiser? And now I'm running it at GaryCon. That is an example of how things happen. So there you go. It's a great point. You get surprised by even some of the less good, let's say, stuff that's written, and you can make soup out of bones, right? So there you go. Anna, what are your thoughts?
We should have a second one.
Okay.
I love this. This was awesome. This was so good, and Les and Sam, it's always awesome to have you here and add to the discussion. And I didn't even get to half of my list.
Well, that's good. So we got content for the future. That's good.
Yep.
Because we'll get probably a little more obscure next time. There's just nothing wrong with that. To push it out a little bit. What about you, Mike?
Well, my thoughts on the topic bounce back and forth. One, it's like you almost need an encyclopedic knowledge of the world of Greyhawk to know where to set stuff that's not already developed. But then on the other hand, I thought to myself, well, you could just literally throw a dart at the map and you'd probably not hit something, you'd hit a lot more open area. So sometimes not knowing all that knowledge in advance might be an advantage to someone who's going to carve out a little spot on the map. So, I mean, I keep going back and forth on, what. Unfortunately, I'm on the encyclopedia side of this, so I can't think of this as someone without any prior knowledge of the world of Greyhawk. But I think if you just look at the Darlene map, you could really just kind of guess your way into some good spots without even trying.
Quickie shout outs. We'll give everyone 20 seconds there. Sam, what do you got? You got something that's going on?
Yes. I'm still writing up the storm. Hopefully there'll be more in Visions 3, Visions 4, maybe something even beyond Visions. I'm just writing. Uh, I did post one, the link for my article on demographics in the Flanays over on Cannon Fire. Please go to Cannon Fire, read up all my old stuff. Get Visions 1 and 2. Wait for Visions 3, and dig up anything else I've written and just enjoy it.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, Sam cranks out some really, really good material, I gotta say.
Just enjoy it is the key thing. Just enjoy it as long as your players enjoy what you're writing and doing.
Exactly.
That's all that matters. That's what you got shout out.
Let's see. Well, as I kind of mentioned in chat, there are multiple pieces for Visions that I'm working on. I kept getting sidetracked. First, it was my health. Then it was virtual Greyhawk Con and a bunch of other issues. But I'm finally back to it. Matter of fact, that was one of the pieces is related to something that I passed along to you, Jay.
Yes, it's
earlier
something
today
from my campaign that Les expounded on the lore, which is unbelievable, and he gave me the synopsis of it. And I may bring it out in little bits and pieces during my gaming, but we're going to wait for Les to publish it for everyone else to share. It has to do. You can tell them what it has to do with.
It has to do with a certain passage from Jim Ward's Greyhawk Adventures book that alludes to a type of flower that is only found in a portion of the Sea of Dust and in a certain area of the Pomage. And it also has to do with exactly the Twisted Forest, and it has to do with the significance of this particular flower to Sul culture and history, and possibly to the foundation of the Imperium itself.
It's really cool. So,
and in addition to that, I've got coming up, I announced this earlier today, so I might as well repeat it here. Going to be recording the next couple of sessions coming up with Wiley Hobbit and Matthias.
Awesome.
Of the appendix and in adjacent discussions. We're going to be looking at fairy tales and folklore. And, for example, with Gary Gygax in the prose material accompanying Appendix N, where he was discussing Andrew Lang's fairy books and the Brothers Grimm and things like that as inspiration. So we're going to be looking at fairy tales, and I want to look at how fairy tales have influenced the genre, the fantasy genre, and how in turn the fantasy genre feeds into D&D and there's possible uses for Greyhawk and definite uses for Greyhawk. And we're also going to be doing an episode on what some critics call the Imperial Gothic, which is one of my favorite periods of literature and types of literature. We're going to be looking at some late 19th century authors such as Arthur Machen, Bram Stoker, H. Rider Haggard, H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, specifically his supernatural stories and The Lost World, Rudyard Kipling, Richard Marsh, and others, and how they laid the foundations really that underpin a lot of Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft's stuff, and how that in turn, their material was reprinted in magazines and stuff in the 50s and also in paperback throughout the 60s and 70s, and how you can find all these traces of these elements in and elements from early Greyhawk and from D&D, tracing all the way back to this literature and the ways that this literature can still be explored. Bram Stoker's Jewel of Seven Stars or Lair of the White Worm, in addition to his Dracula. Or, as I mentioned, Doyle's supernatural stories, Kipling's supernatural stories, Marsh's The Beetle, H. Rider Haggard's great kind of Lost World kind of stories, and, of course, Arthur Machen's tales of ancient things that survive in the hills. So, and experiments that should not be. So I'm going to tie and Arthur Machen's connection to the Golden Dawn and occultism of the area. So we're going to be looking at a lot of cool stuff, I think. And I'm hoping that it will inspire DMs to go ahead and plunder those books. Yeah, so basically that's it. That's all I got.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Excellent. Anna, what's up?
I'm just clawing my way out of getting work done. So I'm getting back to where I want to be. So I'm keeping my head down and work really hard and getting things done. So, but if you're not streaming tomorrow, then I might take the chance to stream some tomorrow. So
awesome.
yeah. So I'll hope. I'm out for a couple hours, so I'm not sure I will be home. So I can't say for 100% sure that I will be on time, so to speak, because it depending on a little bit on Southern California, LA traffic, and that's worse than the weather, so to speak. So you never know. So exactly when I can start, so to speak. But that's my ambition to try to do it. On Friday, I will definitely do it. So,
yeah, Valmoka says he doesn't have a game either tomorrow. So
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yep. So great. Yep.
I have no game.
Yep.
That's a
So,
definite. So,
yep.
yeah.
Oh, you have a
streaming
game.
on Friday. So yeah. Otherwise, I'm just trying my best to catch up.
No, Von Mucker says you do have a game tomorrow.
Oh, I do have a game
You
tomorrow.
do, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we'll see when I can get home. Okay. Yep.
Awesome.
We'll see. Yep. I'm sorry about
It's all good.
screwing up here. Yep.
So, Mike, what do you got going on?
Sam, Les, thanks for coming on. Good,
It was fun.
good input. Happy Halloween, Patrick, Canadian Ancient Gamer. That's all I got. Until next time.
That's good enough, man.
Yep.
That's good enough. I know it's been a rough week for you and some of us others here.
And just physical.
Yeah.
Just old. Just breaking down.
I try, man. I thank you. I wish I had a game tomorrow night, but I had two guys out. I couldn't. I didn't want to mess with. I still have Altamir on the table. All right, so it's just like I tried to get a Saturday special, even in morning and evening game. It just didn't work. A lot too many people are out that I normally get for that. So next stream for here is going to be a Gavin. I don't know what the topic is yet, but we'll get a good one discussing campaign stuff. That'll be Sunday night at 7. And thank you all for a great stream post post virtual GradCon. All right, closing out entries. I bet you this thing's not going to work still, and they got to get this fixed. It did. Revalgix won. Wow, it worked.
Nice. Congrats.
Revalgix.
Awesome. Yeah.
But Revalgix, are you overseas? Are you overseas, Revalgix? I always forget. If you're overseas, I'm going to give you gift certificates because I cannot mail these things out. So let me know. I think you're overseas. Yeah. So it looks like I'll put you on the gift certificate list. Let me see if did he say he's here to claim? Let me just see if he's on. He's on. All right, I'll get with him. And take care of that. So we'll go from there, man. So Sam.
Yes.
Thank you. Les, thank you.
Hey,
and Mike, as always,
pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you.
We
Jim.
got let me see here where we're going to rate into. I had it down to 2. They didn't respond. All right, I'm gonna rate into Razzmatazz. I'm supposed to be being interviewed on their stream on next Monday. Okay, just so you're aware. Hopefully that comes to fruition. Thanks, Troy. I'll be in touch with everyone. I'll be around. I may be a little scarce this weekend, but I will be around. And everyone, I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great night. See you. Oh, I almost hit a freaking wrong button again. Maybe I will hit a wrong button here. There we go. No, Carman, I'm gonna rate a Razzmatazz. I already kind of told them I would. So, but thank you for the suggestion.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thanks for
it was
watching.
fun.
Great time.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see you all. Still building up people. All right, I'll see you Sunday. More than likely, 1 in 10 chance for something on Saturday. Talk to you soon.
Alrighty.
Okay, ending that.